The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its sponsors.
With so many people living longer, the fear of outliving your money becomes a reality for many of us. Will I be a financial burden? Will I outlive my money? How will I be remembered? My name is Neil Himmelstein, president of Main Street Planning Group. Please contact me by visiting mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. I will introduce you to strategies that will guarantee you will not outlive your money, that can guarantee you will not be a burden on your loved ones. Through a collaborative approach, we will uncover solutions that offer tax-efficient strategies, lifetime income, and legacy planning, choice, organization, direction, and education. That is the code we stand behind. Contact mainstreetplanninggroup.com. That's mainstreetplanninggroup.com, or call 631-647-4694. And listen to me every Friday at 3 p.m. as I host the Main Street Code for Financial Success, right here on 103.9 LI News Radio. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. I'm your host, Neil Himmelstein. I'm here every Friday at 3 o'clock, and we talk about our code, which is choice, organization, direction, and education. We help hundreds of advisors across the United States with any needs with regards to insurance, life insurance, annuities, disability, long-term care. These are all big issues and big planning issues, and we like to help you, and we help other advisors who have that need. As an independent wholesaler, we represent 30 different companies. Our advice is completely independent and not dependent on one insurance company telling us what way to go. And we get compensated from the insurance companies. You don't have to pay us a fee. And basically, we're here to help you and guide you and put you in the right direction, reviewing your documents or creating new ones, whatever we have to do. And today, we're so lucky to have with us again Cheryl Katz, one of my favorite guests. Say hello, Cheryl.
Hi, Neil. Thank you so much for having me. I've gotten a few calls just from people who listen to your show and listen to us. And all I've heard is how helpful you have been to so many people. So thank you for inviting me back and allowing me to be a part of your show. My name is Cheryl Katz. I am a partner at Forchelli Deegan Terrana. We are a full-service law firm located in Uniondale. So we do all different areas of law, but my primary practice area is trust and estates.
Excellent. And you know what I find very interesting? You know, I work with a lot of insurance advisors who ask me what's the best thing for this client, that client. And so often, and a lot of them are not trained, they don't understand the fact that who's the attorney of the client or who's the accountant of the client. You know, they're one-directional thinking, I'm trying to make a sale and position this type of product. And if you feel that as a client, please give us a call, because at the end of the day, you want an independent assessment of the right direction to go along.
Definitely.
And I think it's so important. You have situations like that, so people don't want to call and ask for advice because of that. They're afraid they're going to be sold. We don't do that. We advise. We don't sell. If there's a product that we can help you with, that's great. We get paid. That's nice. And we also get paid. The other way we get paid is when you refer us to your family member or friend. And that's how people want to know, how do I get paid? That's how I get paid.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, because the amount of clients that I've sent you documents to, I'm like, hey, Neil, take a look at this. Hey, Neil, what do you think of this? I never paid you. So.
No. And basically, you know, I believe in karma and things. You do the right thing for people, it comes around, and that's how I've lived my life. And, you know, that's the way I feel. And so I know people are afraid to call, and they're afraid to call the attorney. They think, oh my God, I got this big bill. And you know what? You need a specific attorney. You don't go to your local guy down the corner. Like if my Mercedes has a problem, I don't go down the street to the local mechanic. I take it to the Mercedes dealer. I'm just using that as an example.
It's important with lawyers, because your lawyer should have a specialty. Like I do trust and estates. I'm a lawyer. I could pretty much practice any area of law. But I would never practice anything else or even attempt to, because I am not an expert in that field.
Right. And the nice thing about Cheryl and her firm is they have specialists in every area of law. How many attorneys? A lot.
Yeah, we're about 75 attorneys.
Right.
We practice in pretty much any area you can think of except personal injury or matrimonial or criminal. So we have corporate attorneys, real estate attorneys. We have land use and zoning attorneys. Anything you can think of, we probably can help.
Right. And it's important. So even though, my specialty is insurance, I know my lane. If you need a CPA to go over your information, and I recommend that you use a CPA or an enrolled agent or a professional to do your taxes. Not only do your taxes if you have a business, you want to have somebody who's really knowledgeable in that area, whether you're a corporation, an LLC, a C Corp. These are all very important things. So all I can say is it's important to have a specialist. And I run into situations every day where I'm talking to an estate attorney, and because things happen. And, Cheryl and I were talking a while back about tenants in common, because it's a very, very interesting thing. I was telling her about a client I had who she had a tenant in common, not just with her husband who had passed away, which is very common to have that, but also she had her son and I think her daughter as tenants in common. And then what happened was, this was right when COVID was in the thralls of COVID. She had lost her husband, and her son died from COVID, who was a joint tenant on their house. And her son was married to a woman who basically, after he died, excommunicated her from her grandchildren and everything else. But I know there's a problem there, because he's a tenant in common, and she's 80 years old. Let's face it, she's not a spring chicken, so to speak, and her health is not 100%, although she's got full mental capacities and everything else. There's potentially a big problem.
There's a huge problem, and it is going to be very expensive to clean it up. I mean, there are so many issues with owning real property as a tenant in common. So there's different ways to own real property. Tenant in common means every single individual has an interest in the house. You could also own something joint tenant with a right of survivorship. So that's if one person passes, the others who own it eat up the deceased person's interest. So a tenant in common doesn't have the survivorship language. So in your case, what I tell clients who own real property as a tenant in common is you have to clean it up during life. Dump it in a trust, dump it in a different vehicle, so it's not in your individual names. Why? Well, let's say, in your case, the wife, she, God forbid, runs somebody over, a surgeon.
It's funny because this is a relative of one of your clients.
Really? Oh, no.
Yeah. It's just how things go.
Yeah, it is.
One of the things we do when we plan, and Cheryl does as well, is we talk about your whole family and your whole situation, because truthfully, one thing leads to the other. How something happens to a parent affects your life.
Definitely.
Or something happens to a child affects your life. And if you happen to be, they call it the sandwich generation, in between raising children and taking care of a parent, there's a whole bunch of complicated things that come up.
Absolutely.
And you may be running ragged, trying to help everybody and do everything, including running your own business or working for a company, which fails. And when you're a caregiver and you're running back and forth, and your kids may not be getting the attention that they need. Your parent may not be getting the attention they need. Your wife or spouse may not be getting any attention at all. And it causes tremendous emotional problems throughout 3 generations, sometimes 4 generations can be affected by planning or improper planning or planning that wasn't done. You don't want an emergency plan.
Yeah. Well, look at the tenants in common example. So if somebody ran somebody over and there's a lawsuit, well, now your house is subject to this lawsuit. Somebody is getting divorced. Well, now your house is brought into this divorce proceeding because you own the real property with so many other people that now your interest is affected by their life. That's improper planning.
I have to go back to them because I don't think that they did anything with this at the time. I think I brought it up and I let it go, and I had to follow up with that because I'm really the more I think about it, I go, oh, geez, did I leave a stone unturned? Did that client leave a stone unturned?
They did.
Yeah.
They did.
And, you can't help everybody. You try to, and some people don't listen.
And then good luck selling that house. So once everybody who owned it initially starts passing away, then you have to probate each of their wills. Or if they don't have wills, you have to do an administration proceeding for each of their
Somehow
families.
I think you're going to inherit this problem. You don't even know it yet. You're going to inherit this
I'm
one.
sure I will, because it's incredibly complex. It's time-consuming and expensive.
Exactly. You've been listening to the Main Street Code for Financial Success, and we're going to take a brief commercial break. I'm here every Friday at 3 o'clock. If you need to reach out to me, 631-647-4694. And Cheryl, how can I get a hold of you?
516-248-1700. Thanks, Neil.
You got it. Thank you. Welcome back to the Main Street Code for Financial Success. We're having an engaging conversation with Cheryl Katz. She's with Forchelli
Deegan
Terrana. Yes, I'm really bad with names. I should have cue cards.
At least you know my name, Neil.
I know. It's all good. It's a lot shorter than it once was, which is nice too, because I don't have to remember as much. Oh my goodness, I'm terrible with names. I'm good with numbers, and I'm good with organizing people's finances, but give me 100 names, I'm just not that good anymore. I used to be, but that's part of my aging and mental remembering. I used to remember every phone number. These cell phones have made me lazy. I mean, when I was a kid, I knew my number, my next door neighbor's number, my kid's number, my cousin. Yeah.
Me too. I'm definitely younger than you, but still,
I don't even know my own phone number anymore. It's up.
I know.
Call Castle. Okay, there we go. Done. So anyhow, Cheryl and I, before the break, we're talking about a situation one of my clients has where her husband died, and she's a tenant in common with a son who also passed away during COVID, and that's got to be cleaned up. And she's actively involved in a case right now, or a situation right now, with 4 clients, 4 siblings, who inherited their grandmother's property.
It's a mess. So I'll tell you a little bit about it.
Sure.
So grandmother died, 45 years ago.
Wow.
She solely owned one house in Brooklyn. Okay? So she gave it to her 4 kids pursuant to a will.
Okay.
So now it's owned by 4 people, tenants in common. Here we go. So they all, lived in the house. Some people lived there. Some people left. Some people had their kids. But everybody got along beautifully, which is great and actually very rare.
Unusual, yes.
Totally unusual, but the 4 of them own the house together. So what happens in the last, 4 decades? 3 of them died. So it's not joint tenant right or survivorship, like I said before. It's tenant in common. So the one surviving one, she's, I think, 90-something at this point. She owns 25%. The other 3 are deceased. So what happens when the current owner, the 25% owner, passes away? Well, somebody wants to sell this. Who's going to sell this? Now you have to figure out the other 3 who died, what their estate plan is.
Right. So if I'm a 25% owner of a house,
You can only sell 25%.
and I pass away,
Yeah.
and I guess de facto, let's say I have 2 kids, they own 12.5% each, right?
Correct.
Is that
is,
right?
if that's what your will says, the interest would go through your will.
Okay.
If you don't have a
now,
will.
Talk about a house, talk about business, anything else. Now I have 2 new partners.
Yes.
I'm the other, 25%. I'm one of the other siblings, but now I have 2, call them minority partners in my house.
Exactly.
This happens in business all the time.
All the time.
It happens, a lot of times you'll have people that come in here and talk about really complex things, or I don't have that much money. I like to bring it down to, hey, you might have these problems too, whether you have a lot of assets or you don't have assets. These are some of the problems that occur that go on for decades. Now we're 40 years since Grandma passed, and how many owners do we have? of this
Neil,
house?
I think right now we have 18 owners. So
18 owners of one house.
And so the house is located in Brooklyn, right? But
Okay.
every owner who dies, you have to handle their estate in the county they were domiciled in or where they lived upon their death. So one Brooklyn house, I am working on 5 different estate proceedings in Queens, in Brooklyn, in Suffolk, in Manhattan, because it depends where the owners live. So one of the owners who died, we'll call him owner B. Owner A is alive, owner B is deceased. Owner B had 2 kids, one who's living, one who is deceased, who had 3 kids, 2 who are living,
goodness.
1 who is deceased. None of these people had wills. So now I have to do a triple estate just for B. I have to do B's estate, B's post-deceased son's estate, and then B's post-deceased granddaughter's estate in
God.
3 jurisdictions. All because there was not proper planning. This will cost the family tens of thousands of dollars.
Easy.
Just from one
What's the house worth?
The house is worth 1.2, but you divide that by 4, less the capital gains taxes, legal fees, transfer taxes, all administration.
That must be some house.
It's not even that nice of a house. But what are you going to do? No title company will ever insure the sale. You have to clean up title. And there are about 18 owners right now. So I am cleaning up title while owner A is alive. So when she passes, now B, C, and D, their estates and estates of estates can all just sign a deed over to the purchaser.
Thank goodness for spreadsheets.
Thank goodness for spreadsheets and trees. I do a lot of family trees.
Family trees are so important. There's so many things that happen within a family. And the main thing is you want to be in a situation where there's not family strife after you pass. This is why planning is so vital.
Yes.
And then the court system. Pre-COVID, post-COVID, just to get on trial for something like this, the trials must be going on endlessly.
They do. It depends on the type of trial. So you could have a jury trial in my area of law or a bench trial, which is just the judge.
So let's talk about, very simple. You have a house. You have not this complicated, crazy thing. Just basic.
Just a house.
Just a house. You have 3 siblings. One sibling was living in the house, thought they were inheriting the house. The other 2 siblings are suing. How long does it take for them to even get before the judge?
So there's a lot of factors that need to be taken into account. It depends how fast the executor brings the will, how fast the executor's lawyer can file the appropriate documents. But let's say...
And then getting a court date.
So you get a court date fairly quickly, but that's just the beginning, is getting the court date. The courts that I practice in are all well ran. So you will get a court date quickly, but you will be back in court month after month. You'll be in depositions, which are examinations, discovery. It's an ongoing process.
So here's the thing. So this is always the case. One sibling wants to sell the house. One sibling wants to live in the house, and the other sibling's doing very well. They'd like to rent the house out.
It depends what the will says. First, it depends who owned the house.
Well, again...
It depends what the will says.
Again, this is another scenario, but a typical scenario is this. You have 3 children. One wants to do this, one wants to do that, one wants to do that. Now, there's bickering amongst them. One kid needs to live in the house because they're not economically doing very well, and that's kind of where they live. The other one wants to sell the house because they need money or their family needs money. And the third one is like, just rent it out, because I don't want to sell it when I have to. The worst time to sell, right?
Yeah.
When you have to.
When you have to sell it.
So this creates a big problem. Why? Because the will's not set up right, or these questions weren't asked ahead of time.
Life. Exactly.
During life. And everyone just made assumptions. I don't want to go through that nasty joke, but, you don't want to assume. So this is why the discussion has to be made, the plans have to be made, just on a simple house. And We're not even including other assets.
Exactly. And this is where things fall apart. I mean, you have the sibling who's, not living in the house, but they really need the money. And you have the sibling living in the house, and they need the money, but they're living there. And then you got to evict your sibling
it's terrible.
from the house.
What's the best asset to leave any estate? What's the best asset you could leave?
What do you mean best? Easiest and prevent litigation?
Cash.
Just
right?
cash. Just do cash in do a beneficiary on your cash accounts, and that's the end of it.
Or have life insurance, which is a big cash bucket that's easily divisible into 3, 5, 10, 15, and even 18 people, if you want it to be. So you've been listening to the Main Street Code, and I hope you enjoyed yourself today. If you miss an episode, you can always catch us on Apple or Spotify or my website, themainstreetcode.com, or give me a call at 631-647-4694 if you have any questions, any concerns, you want to know more, you want to meet Cheryl, you want to meet me, give us a call. We're happy to meet with you. And I wanted to say, in January, we're going to do a big event at Cheryl's law firm talking about all these issues. Cheryl, how can I get a hold of you?
516-248-1700. Thanks so much, Neil.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon, everybody.
The views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of this station, JVC Broadcasting Management, or its